So this story happened about 11 years ago. I was a senior in high school at the time, but it's the single most mind-boggling thing that I've ever experienced. It's also important to note that it happened in mid-December, and I'm from Iowa. In the winters here, it get cold at night. If you get stuck outside, you will die of the cold. That plus the snowfall makes everything dead silent. You can hear anything and everything inside the house, and even immediately outside of it. Well, me and my best friend were hanging out in my family's walkout basement, just having a boring winter night, playing video games. We were also the only ones home. The reason it was just us because my mother went from work straight to a bar to grab a few drinks with coworkers. So me and my friend thought it would be a good idea to break into the family wine and live a little. As we were sitting there opening the first bottle, I heard the door to the garage open and slam shut. I immediately thought my mom was home, so I started looking for places to hide the bottle. My friend then says, "I thought you said your mom was supposed to be out all night." "She was," I replied. Then heard a few heavy stomps and heard my mom yell out, "Mio Sanbu? Anyone home?" I yelled back up the stairs, "Yup, just hanging out in the basement." I heard a few more steps move from the garage door towards the stairs, and she yells out again, "Can you come help me with something? I need you up here." I reply back while frantically trying to find a good place to hide the wine bottle, "Yup, give me just a minute." Then there was silence for about 20 seconds. "Anyone down there with you?" she yelled back in a more concerned, serious tone, in a voice that was slightly off my mother's. This was the first thing that told me something wasn't right. Our family never cared if anyone was over, as our house was a very open house to all family and friends, and the voice, it was just wrong. Like it sounded like my mother's, but it was missing something that I couldn't put my finger on. Weirded out, I replied back, "Just Colton." After I yelled that back to her, I found a good place to hide the bottle and began walking up the steps to the next level. Now, as I walked up the steps, I couldn't help but feel the overbearing silence of the house and the slight electric twang. There's something isn't right. When I got to the top of the steps, I looked over to where the door to the garage is, and also the kitchen right next to it, and it black, pitch black. All the lights were off, and there was no moonlight shining through any windows. I walked over to the kitchen, yelling out, "Mom, where are you?" There was no reply, just silence and darkness. I feel the electric twang turn into full needles, and my adrenaline kicked in full force. I had to get out of here as fast as possible. My mother was not home. I run back down the stairs, grabbing my coat along the way. "What's wrong?" Colton says. "My mom's not home," I reply as fast as I can, looking for my truck keys. "What do you mean? You were just talking with her." I can see the confusion in his face. "There's no one home. We need to leave now." I take a few steps towards the back door that opens up to the yard. Then I see my dog shaking on the couch and my cat growling behind it. I couldn't leave them. I just knew that if we left, something would happen. "Are we leaving?" Colton said, still confused as all hell. "No, I can't leave them here alone. Something's really off. I'm going to call my mom and figure this out." I pull up my phone and call my mom. She picks up immediately. "Meow, Sandboo, what's going on?" She answers, "Mom, were you just home? I heard you yelling for me from the second level, and when I went up, you weren't there." I said frantically, hoping that she was playing a joke. "No, I'm just leaving the bar. I wasn't feeling very well. Are you okay?" "What do you mean you heard me?" I fill her in on the whole story and she rushes home. Colton and I stay in the basement with the animals until she got home. But before she did, you could hear something upstairs, not walking or sitting on things, but a pressure in the air, like a black hole was slowly moving from one room to the next. And the word that I would intentionally describe it as is hungry. When she got home, you could feel the thing leave just as quickly as it came. Like an overbearing predator presence had just flown away. We still have never figured out what the hell was going on. And this is just one story of many unexplained things that have happened to us, but this is the easiest to write down, and one that I was happy to have witnessed. My mother has passed away now, and I have moved away to Arizona, but whenever I go back to Iowa and I see Colton, he still gets creeped out by what had happened. I will never truly know what happened, but I know that whatever it was had my mother's voice, it was evil, and it was hungry. A few years ago, fall or early winter 2019, we were staying with my husband's father. We rented and moved into a house a couple of months later, but had been staying there less than a week at the time this happened. I slept in the living room on an air mattress with our kids, ages 10, 5, and 1. The kitchen, dining room, living room were all open spaces. There was a wide counter and sink that was a bar on the living room side. He never had stools used like that, though. Always had a sofa pushed up right to it and had storage for dishes and whatever in the kitchen side. On each end of the counter, there was about 4 or 5 feet of open space between it and the wall. Along the wall directly opposed the front door were 3 doors: father-in-law's bedroom, bathroom, spare room. From left to right, my husband slept on the tiny spare bed. His dad kept the door to his room closed and usually had a TV and, depending on the weather, either a space heater, window AC unit, or at least one fan going. I don't remember if my husband had the door to the room he was sleeping in open or closed that night. Except for the back wall where the bedrooms and bathroom were, the house had windows all the way around it, large floor-to-ceiling windows along the front and a line of large sliding windows along each side wall. It was originally built as a sort of camp/getaway cabin. Apparently, he disagreed and was in the process of building a front porch and replacing about half of those windows with a wall. However, at the time, the porch was still being built and none of the windows had been changed or taken out yet. This particular night, I was holding my 18-month-old with a child on each side of us. We had all been asleep for a while when I woke up. I'm not sure what time it was, but the house was mostly quiet and no one else was awake. I lay there quietly without moving around for a little while and couldn't figure out why I was awake at all, much less so alert. Not long after I decided it was just one of those things, sleep cycles. I was about to try to get back into sleep. Someone knocked on the front door. Not a loud banging, beating knock, but definitely a knock. The air mattress was in the middle of the living room area, and the door was on the kitchen side of that dividing counter. I really didn't want to answer the door for multiple reasons. 1, I was in the middle of 3 sleeping children. 2, it was late. 3, it was cold and we were cozy and warm all snuggled together. And 4, it wasn't my house and company, and no one else seemed to notice something was knocking. The knocking went on for longer than I would have knocked on someone's door in the middle of the night, and did get more persistent, though it never did turn into banging, and no one called out for someone to answer the door, and no one's cell rang. Finally, I heard someone walking down the unfinished porch. They had stacked some boards and tools and stuff against the front of the house. I heard no clatters or thumps or anything like that, but it did sound like whoever was out there was having to walk on and around those building materials, and then I heard a distinct and firm tapping on the window, closest to the kids and me. There was a small older TV and a small stereo/speaker sitting on 2 small tables about nightstand size. Actually, the one holding the TV was an old nightstand I had given him years before. Between the air mattress and the window, I was facing away from the window, but the tapping was right there where our heads were. An entire wall of flooring to ceiling windows, and the tapping was done only in the area that would have been in my direct line of sight. If I hadn't been facing the other direction, I don't think I took a single breath until it stopped, and I heard footsteps walking away, and they walked across 10 all the way to the end of the porch where the driveway was. Walking across sheets of 10 makes a pretty distinct sound. I know exactly what it sounds like when someone walks on 10. I did not realize until the next morning was that only sheets of 10 out there were already in place because they had finished putting it up as a roof over the porch before stopping for the evening, which meant that there was no sheets of 10 stored across the wall/under the windows with those boards and tools and whatever else was out there. The only way for someone or something to have walked across the sheets of 10, which I am certain, beyond the shadow of a doubt, that I heard happening after hearing an unknown someone knock and tap for so long it became unsettling rather than annoying, would have been for them to jump/swing up onto the top of the houseless porch from an incomplete porch floor and then jump back down at the end. It scares me in a way nothing else ever has, and still does every time I accidentally think about it. I want to start with a little bit about me, as it helps in context with the story. I'm a 22-year-old person working in the medical field. I'm a floater medical technician at the moment, which means I get a schedule every week, going to different assisted living facilities. They usually hold a majority of elderly people and help with vaccinations and general patient care involving meds all around my state. Sometimes I'm only 30 minutes from home, but I've driven 3 hours before, and most times they drag on long into the night. Being that I'm not really that picky and know how to handle myself, and money is money, I usually don't mind the drive. My parents would drive 4 hours to a location for a day trip, and that same day we would drive back. Nothing too crazy though. It can get a little tiring after working 6 days in a row. Now that you know how I work, I guess I'll tell you about where I lived. No names, but I'm basically in the foothills or mountains. Lots of back roads, lots of trees. I know typically A scary story is the middle of nowhere with spooky trees. But once again, I don't think much of it. I lived in forest all my life. I've seen them as peaceful rather than scary. So I finish up this particular clinic at around 6 p.m. And as you know, if you live up north in the winter, it's dark by then. But once again, I'm thinking nothing of it. But even so, I'm tired and hungry and ready to go to bed. My team calls it a day, and I set up to take my hour and 45-minute drive home. The first 30 minutes I'm in town, then on a highway, so pretty nice smooth sound, listening to lo-fi music as per usual, using it as my decompress and meditative time. I keep driving, then I notice a huge crash up ahead, like a 4 or 5 car pileup, real nasty on this busy highway. So I take an exit off the highway, going to drive around it so I can get home and into my bed quicker, rather than sit and wait for them to clear a path from out of the lanes. Anyway, I start driving through this town, and it honestly looks like maybe 3 people live in it. All the buildings are run down. The road is messed up. It's awful. My car's poor tires and hydraulic system were begging for me to stop, so I had to slow down a bit to not stress my car out. It's dark and really old, but again, places like this exist, a town on its last breath. I've seen them more than a few times from living up and down the East Coast in less than shitty neighborhoods. I'm not gonna judge, but I will know this place is just really, really empty. No cars, no lights, boarded up windows, just empty. I'm driving between 15 and 20 miles an hour. My brights on so I can see. It's a clear night, so I had that going for me. As I'm driving past this big fire department overrun with bare trees, a loud thunk comes from the top of my car. Great. I quickly pull over into the parking lot of the abandoned fire department. I open the door and I panic, expecting to see some tree branches denting my roof, but nope, nothing, which is weird enough as is. I'm like, what the hell? I knew something hit my roof, so I went to check behind my car. Maybe it rolled off. Maybe it was a bird or a bat that flew away. There are a lot of trees around. I walk around my car looking into the messed up road, nothing. I chalk it up to a winged animal and climb back in my car, a little rattled, so it's silent as I get resituated. That's when I hear this ear-piercing shriek. I'm talking, someone is screaming so loud, it sounds like their vocal cords could break. I lock my door and start getting back on the road. Calm down, I'm thinking. Bobcats are everywhere. You've heard what they sound like plenty, like a woman crying bloody murder. It's just a bobcat. It's just a bobcat. My hands are shaking, and I'm trying to drive off there as fast as I can. I drove another mile through this town, and I'm a few miles from the exit to the highway again. I'm mentally kicking myself for being so scared. I'm a mile away now thanks to the helpful yet very beat up and weathered signs. I'm calming down, nothing crazy. Just as I reach for my foot in the passenger side seat, something rushed past my headlights. I scream and brake hard. I don't know what it was. It was yards away from me, in the very distant part of my headlights. This is the final straw. I'm crying at this point, shaking so hard I can barely grip the wheel. Eyes blurred with tears. I don't know about the music anymore, and even though I'm still reminding myself animals inhabit trees, dense abandoned towns all the time, the situation was still enough to make me cry. I keep driving, trying to focus on getting to the damn highway. But that's when I see it. It's a human. Then it's not like a human I've ever seen. On the other side of the road, starting to stand up so politely on the sidewalk, as if waiting for me to pass so it could cross the road, was this tall thing. It had sunken facial features and looked naked, loose skin, a lot of it, sagging down its legs and arms, piling at the wrists, ankles, and knees, around its neck and hanging from its jaw. I saw it for half a second before I slammed my foot down on the gas. I'm screaming obscenities now. My onslaught of emotions is too much. Goosebumps cover me from head to toe, tears rolling down my face, hands grip my steering wheel so tight that nails marks in it. I swerve onto the highway and recklessly into the other lane. I drive at 80 for a little bit before eventually slowing down and pulling over to the side of the road to sob and call my dad. He picks up instantly, and when he hears me crying, he's all concerned, trying to get my story, to explain everything. I called it a man in some scary monster costume, and my dad instructed me to call the police, which I really didn't want to do. I was already a nervous wreck having to explain it, or even go back with someone. Absolutely F that, but my dad insisted, so I called the cops. I tell them I saw a man in the town back there off the exit in a costume. He scared me really bad, and after a few more questions, the cops said they'd check it out and sent me on my way. No, I can't be sure if it was a costume. No, I can't be sure if it wasn't some weird outfit and bad lighting at night. No, I'm not saying all these events were connected in some way, but what I'm saying is it happened so quick, it was hard to dismiss at nothing. And if that was a costume, it had to be damn good costume because it was hyper realistic, and I saw every single fold and wrinkle and could even make out a couple blue veins. I don't even remember the name of the town. I haven't gotten a call back from the police about any updates. If there was anyone found with a costume on stalking the side of the road, and uptown at 7 p.m. It happened about a month ago, and I'm better now, as long as I'm in my car. I'm safe, but I no longer feel safe being outside of my car at night. Not even the short walk from my front door to my driveway is safe anymore. I'll start shaking and panicking if I'm outside in the dark for more than 5 seconds.